So I got a request on the RealCam video to cover more Canadian stocks. So I thought that was a great idea, and thank you Apanon for suggesting that. I'm hoping I pronounced your name correctly. I'm sorry if I butchered it. See, I do read the comments. So if you guys have any more suggestions as to what kind of companies you want me to cover or what kind of stocks, please leave that down in the comments below and I'll be sure to read them. Although with that being said, I won't do everything that you guys suggest. Don't get me wrong, right? I'm not just gonna do everything that you guys suggest.
Hey Andy, do the Tide Pod challenge.
Just kidding, don't do this, guys. You'll die. Like, it's stupid. Don't do it. Anyways, without further ado, let's jump in. Hey guys, welcome back. So today we're talking about Wealthsimple, which is a Canadian financial services company. Now, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you've probably heard of me talk about this company at some point in the past, and you know that I love using their products and their services as a customer. And I just think that Wealthsimple is delivering such a different experience than what all the other banks and financial institutions here in Canada are delivering. And I just wanted to make a video about this and talk about it. Now, I'm kind of cheating a little bit with putting this as a watch this stock video just because Wealthsimple is a private company and you can't actually buy stock in this company, unfortunately. Well, actually, you sort of can buy this stock. 80% of Wealthsimple is owned by a company called the Power Corporation of Canada, which is a publicly traded company. And you can buy their stock, ticker symbol POW, POW. And if you buy into Power Corporation, then they own a bunch of other financial services institutions. They own, like, I think a life insurance company or some type of insurance company, and they also own several investment firms. They're basically just this big conglomerate that invests through all these big financial services firms and all these big financial companies. But I'm not really interested in any of the other companies. I'm talking about Wealthsimple in particular today, and quite frankly, Wealthsimple is the only company that I'm interested in their portfolio. So today we're only talking about Wealthsimple and not the Power Corporation. Now, I know a lot of you probably think I'm a Wealthsimple shill because I talk about them all the time in a positive light, but I promise you that this video is not sponsored. I'm not being paid by Wealthsimple in any way. I'm not affiliated with Wealthsimple other than being one of their customers. I just genuinely think that their products is pretty revolutionary here in Canada compared to everything else that other companies has to offer. And they're one of the only companies that really understand the millennial investor, in my opinion. If you look at the mobile experience of any other major app that another major bank or financial institution is offering here in Canada, they're all pretty shit, to be honest, right? I mean, there's just no comparison between what Wealthsimple has to offer in terms of their mobile and just even their web experience compared to all the old, bank interfaces and all the mobile apps. I mean, have you seen the RBC mobile app or have you seen the CIBC mobile app for brokerage and stock investing and compare it to Wealthsimple Trade? It's just, in my opinion, it's just such a night and day difference, right? So it's not even close. The experience on the RBC app is straight out of like 2008. Honestly, I don't think they've even updated the mobile app for direct investing since 2008, because if you look at the interface, it looks the exact same as the old iPhone interface, the like iOS 6 or whatever, the skeuomorphic, or was it skeuomorphic? I always mix up the two, but like the old iOS design, you can tell that they never changed it from the old like iPhone 4 iOS experience, and it just looks the exact same as what the experience was on an iPhone 4, and they just sort of abandoned that platform essentially. So I just think that Wealthsimple is providing such a superior experience on their mobile app, and I just think that the app is so much more well designed than let's say the RBC app, right? So I think that Wealthsimple is one of the only companies that actually understand the mindset of the millennial and actually cares about these things. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. Let's talk about what exactly Wealthsimple is before we dive any deeper. So Wealthsimple services is mainly split into two major parts. Now, number one is the Robo Advising service, which if you don't know what Robo Advising is, it's basically when you go online, you fill out sort of a questionnaire as to what your risk tolerance is and what your investment goals are, and a robot would advise a portfolio for you, right? So based on your risk tolerance. So if you're a more aggressive investor, it might put more money into stocks and more into like risky sectors, like maybe high tech or something like that. If you're more conservative and you want to save for retirement, let's say, it might put your money into something more safe, right? Like bonds or like maybe really safe stocks, like bank stocks or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, essentially the robot is the one that's deciding on what portfolio to recommend to you. And this is in contrast to the old way of investing, which is if you go to a bank and you go ask a real human advisor and let them advise for you. Now, the advantage of using robots as to a human is that it's much cheaper to use a robot, right? Because the robot charges much lower commission fees. And as a result, Wealthsimple is able to offer much lower fees on their portfolios as compared to if you were to buy into a mutual fund. Now, this is really highly advantageous for beginners just because if you're a beginner and let's say you don't know what company to invest in, you can just go to Wealthsimple and fill out that questionnaire and just schedule your monthly deposits and just put it on autopilot, right? Just forget about it. Just set it and forget about it. And every month, let's say, it'll just take $500 out of your account and invest it on your behalf. And the fees are really low too. I think it's under 1% for sure. It's like 0.1 or something like that, right? It's very low fees compared to a mutual fund, which sometimes would charge you like 2-3%. And yeah, I highly recommend you consider using a robo advising service if you're a complete beginner in the stock market because it just tends to be more beginner friendly. So if you're a total beginner and you don't know what you're doing and you're picking stocks, you might pick the wrong stocks and blow out your portfolio, right? So with a robo advising service, it'll really tailor the experience to the amount of investing knowledge that you have and your risk tolerance and your investing goals and whatnot. So highly recommended to look into if you're a complete beginner. Now, for me personally, obviously, I don't use a robo advising service. This part of the Wealthsimple's business is not very interesting to me just because I pick stocks, right? That's kind of like the whole idea of this channel is I pick stocks, and I've spent a lot of time. I've spent maybe like I don't know the past 8 years of my life investing in the stock market. So I sort of know what I'm doing by now. So for me, robo advising is not really appealing to me just because it's kind of like if you're a professional cyclist and you enter into the Tour de France race with training wheels on, right? It just doesn't make sense. So for me personally, I don't really use the robo advising part. For me personally, I use the Wealthsimple Trade, which is the second part of the business that I'm going to talk about. So Wealthsimple Trade is their brokerage services. And if you don't know what a brokerage is, it's basically the service that you use to invest in stocks, right? So if you want to pick your individual stocks, I assume that you're not going to drive to the stock exchange every time you buy and sell. So you have to use a brokerage service. Now here in Canada, you can use a variety of different services. So all the major banks offer their own, like I said, RBC Direct Investing, which I also have an account with, and Wealthsimple Trade is also one of them. So yeah, I use Wealthsimple Trade pretty frequently, and recently they just got this dark mode update, which looks pretty great. If you ask me, it looks absolutely amazing. And yeah, contrast that to RBC Direct Investing, right? So it's a night and day difference, no pun intended. So the main selling point of Wealthsimple Trade is that it is commission free. So for our folks down in America, you guys are used to it right now, right? So I know you folks in America have Robinhood and Webull and M1 Finance and even all the major brokerages by now, like Charles Schwab or Fidelity, I think is one of them. They're all commission free now, right? But here in Canada, it's really hard to find commission free, and Wealthsimple Trade is actually one of the only ones. I think it is the only one, as far as I'm aware, that's actually fully commission free. Now, this model is obviously based on the Robinhood model. So if you don't know what the Robinhood model is, basically is that they only have a mobile app. So that's why they're able to keep the cost down so much. It's because they don't have to maintain expensive systems. So they only have the app on the iPhone or Android, and you can't access it from a computer. So there's no web interface for Wealthsimple Trade, similar to how Robinhood works. And also, Wealthsimple Trade does not have 24/7 phone service, which a lot of the big banks do. And in fact, they don't have phone service at all. So if you have an issue, you have to email Wealthsimple and they'll try to get back to you within a few hours. Now, this is kind of annoying for some people. If you have a lot of money, let's say if you have like millions of dollars, you might not want to put it all into Wealthsimple Trade just because sometimes if you have millions of dollars, you probably want someone to be there for you 24/7 so that if you have an issue, you can call them up no matter what time it is. But for the most part, for the vast majority of people, I think not having 24/7 phone service is not that big of an issue, right? So for me personally, I have both an RBC direct investing account and a Wealthsimple account. And I've never really had a situation where I had to like call up my broker, right? So I've never actually even used the customer service at RBC. So I've never used the customer service at Wealthsimple either. So I've never really had an issue where I had to like get to a person and talk to them right away. So yeah, that's not an issue for me, but I understand maybe if you have a lot of money, that could be an issue for some people. But that's one way that Wealthsimple keeps their costs down is that they don't have just a person on the phone. They only have the email service. With that being said, though, Wealthsimple Trade does have a few flaws. Now, the major flaw is that you cannot hold US dollars in a Wealthsimple account at the moment. The problem is that here in Canada, a lot of people, including myself, want to invest in US stocks. And if I buy US stocks, then if I do it through Wealthsimple, then it'll have to automatically convert on the fly from Canadian dollars to US dollars and then convert back when I sell. So every time you convert, they do charge a 1.5% currency conversion fee, which sucks because if you're investing a lot of money, you can do the math on that one. But if you're investing in a lot of money, it might be better to pay the $10 commission or something like that through RBC rather than having to pay that 1.5% currency conversion fee. And the currency conversion fee is unavoidable if you're doing it through Wealthsimple Trade, just because, again, they don't let you hold US dollars. So it's not like you can just buy US dollars somewhere else and then put US dollars directly into your account. So you have to put Canadian dollars into your account. And when you sell a US stock, it'll automatically convert that and put it back into Canadian dollars and give it back to you in Canadian dollars. So that's kind of annoying. And number two, there's also no options trading like how it is on Robinhood. So you guys in America don't know how good you guys have it. You guys have commission-free options trading, which is absolutely amazing in my opinion because options are super expensive here in Canada. I think the fee for options trading here in Canada is $10 per trade plus $1.25 per contract. So not only are you paying a flat fee, you're paying per contract. So if you're buying a lot of contracts of options, then the cost will just go through the roof. So there's not really a good alternative because Wealthsimple Trade doesn't even support options. So you can't even buy options on Wealthsimple Trade even if you wanted to. You have to go through the big banks or whatever financial institution, the traditional financial institutions. So yeah, with RBC, at least they charge a lot for options. So unfortunately, Wealthsimple Trade does not have options. So if they implemented both of those, they'll essentially be at feature parity with Robinhood. And once that happens, I think I'll just move all my money to Wealthsimple Trade. But for now, I'm still waiting on those features. So Wealthsimple also has a savings account where they offer this nice metal tungsten card, which I'm still waiting for because I opened up the account, but I think they're having a little trouble manufacturing the tungsten cards. So I'm still waiting on that to be delivered. So Wealthsimple, if you're watching, please hurry that up. But yeah, if they just added those two features that I want, which is US dollars accounts and commission-free options trading, if they just added those two, then I think that Wealthsimple will be by far the best brokerage here in Canada. Now, as of right now, there's another one called Quest Trade, which I'm sure you guys have also probably heard of. Now, Wealthsimple Trade and Quest Trade are kind of sort of neck and neck in my opinion, because Quest Trade offers commissions, but they also offer a lot more features than Wealthsimple Trade. So, you're kind of getting more features with Quest Trade, but Wealthsimple Trade is just more low cost. So they're kind of neck and neck. And I think that if Wealthsimple Trade managed to keep their commission-free model and also bring in a lot of the features that Robinhood has or Quest Trade has, then I think they'll be the top, like no doubt, not even close, right? There won't be any competition. So this is definitely a company that you want to watch closely. And the reason why I'm bringing this up and watch this stock is I think that eventually in the future, it might be a good idea for the Power Corporation to kind of spin off Wealthsimple as its own company and maybe even do an IPO. And I think that that's definitely a thing that could happen. I could totally envision it happening. And if that's the case, I'll definitely be super interested in buying into some of Wealthsimple stock if they do happen to IPO. So anyways, yeah, I'll leave the video here because it's getting a little long, but be sure to give this video a like if you enjoyed the video and consider subscribing if you like this series. Be sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram. I'll leave the links down below in the description as always. And with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.